Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Teaching in the UK webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today. Before we get going, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land from which we are meeting today and acknowledge and pay my respects to elders past and present. So who are we? Well, meet the team. I'm Emma Roberts, and I'm the Overseas Director of Teach In, and we have Catherine Gibson. Kath, give us a wave. Catherine is the International Relationship Manager. We are a small team, but we love to provide personal support and care for our teachers. We provide a personalised service, giving you as much information, answering your questions and guiding you through the process to get your UK teaching adventure started. And we look after you from the beginning until you actually arrive in the UK, where you'll be handed over to a trusted team member at the other end. We have excellent Google reviews, 5-star reviews, and since we did this slide, we've got many more, and we're very proud to have won some best workplaces awards as well. And you can check out our obviously Australian website and our Canadian website in the links you can see in the screen there. So welcome everybody, and let's move on. So when you work for us, you are part of the Education Placement Group, and that, depending on where you work, you might be if you're working in the north, then you'll work for our brand called Just Teachers. If you work in the south of the country, then you'll work for our Supply Desk brand. If you work in London, you will work for Teach London, which is our London-centric brand. We also have Equalitas, which is a teacher training business. So we are able to provide ongoing free professional development to our teachers because we have that professional development training company as well. So you're in good hands with very experienced consultants, both at this side of the world and the other side of the world. I should also mention that Catherine and I are both teachers. We've both lived and worked in the UK as well. So we've lived the experience that you're about to embark on, which is great.
So the British school year is very different to what we have here in Australia or even in New Zealand, more similar over in Canada. But let me walk you through what the school year looks like. They begin at the beginning of September. They have 3 terms rather than 4. And each term is broken up with a 1-week half-term break within it. So you start early in September, you work for 6 weeks, you have a week off in October, then you work for another 6 weeks and have 2 weeks off over that Christmas, New Year festive period. The second term, it starts in early January. You'll be able to secure a position at the beginning of the school year in September, but January is another good time to work towards going over. You work for 6 weeks, you have a week off in February, you work for another 6 weeks, and then you have your Easter break over sort of late March and through into April. Usually by the middle of April, you're back into term 3, work for 6 weeks, have a week off in May, and then your final 6 weeks will take you up to around the 20th of July, which is when their long summer holiday starts, which is a 6-week break. So you can see that there's lots of opportunities to travel, to explore during the end of term breaks, but also in those half-term breaks. And every time they have a public holiday in England, they have it on a Monday. So there's lots of long weekends that you can take advantage of as well. So it's a great traveling profession to be a teacher because you get the opportunity to have all that non-face-to-face time. We work with literally thousands of schools and they span right across England. So as a country, you could work in the south of England in one of our branches in areas like Brighton and Southampton, or on the Kent coast. You could work up into the Greater London area, which is always popular. You can look at the home counties that surround London, so places like Hertfordshire and Buckinghamshire and Essex and Berkshire. You could go up into more towards the Midlands, so you could go into Coventry, to Birmingham. You could look over into Norwich and that area, and then we have a big hub up in Manchester, so there's work available up in the north and in other cities like Leeds. So lots of opportunities for you to look for opportunities in government schools, in independent schools. You could work in a faith school, so you don't need to be Catholic, for example, to work in the Catholic system over in the UK. You can work in academies, which can either be government run or privately run. And then there are grammar or selective schools. And of course, special education is an area of high need. So if you have experience, or if you have a real interest, or you've worked as a teaching assistant and you want to explore working in special needs environments, you can do that. But yeah, we work with the whole scope of school types over in the UK.
So I want to talk about work options. So we want to be flexible and give you the option to choose the type of journey that you would like to have. So the most popular route that our teachers choose is a direct placement with school. This gives you the opportunity to gain full-time experience, you get career progression, and you're assigned a mentor. So they will guide you through and give you feedback about your teaching. And obviously you'll have then, you know, nice firm references when you return to your home country as well. So the way that we facilitate finding you a position in the UK prior to arrival is our profile to interview pathway. And that's where we proactively try and find you a teaching position prior to your arrival in the UK. And that involves you giving us certain information. You complete an online video interview using our Spark Hire video platform, and you answer 10 questions relating to the teacher standards, which we give you in advance and you do in your own time. We collect references and find out exactly what you're looking for from an experience in terms of location, your skill set, your preferred teaching areas, etc. And we create that profile, and we use that as a resource to show schools in the UK in advance of your arrival. So schools will then come to us and they will say, you know, we've had a look at this particular teacher's profile and we'd really like to interview them for a particular role. We would then support you in interviewing for that role, provide you with interview preparation, and make sure you're putting your best foot forward to gain and secure that opportunity. So there are lots of opportunities available in all areas of the country, including London, for long-term positions or direct placement with schools. The other option would be to do supply or guaranteed payment scheme, which means that we're guaranteeing you're working 3 out of 5 days a week, and if we can't find you work, we'll pay you anyway. We do offer a guaranteed payment scheme in some areas, and we have limited spots. In addition to that, you can do supply or what we call casual teaching in Australia, or substitute in Canada. So that is an option as well, which means you'd be going to different schools and filling in. Generally, if you're doing secondary, it'll be general cover. And if it was primary, you would be doing, you know, assigned a particular class for that given day. So they're the work options that we have available.
And it's important to sort of say it's not too early to start a conversation with Emma or myself now. Even if you're still at university in your final year, even if it's something that you're thinking about doing 6 to 18 months from now, it's really great to get to know who you are, the kind of support you're going to need, give you personalised information, and then we can create a timetable of when to get started on documents. There are 3 stages of document collection, and we can kind of keep a dialogue and make sure it's nice and simple and a smooth transition at the point that you do want to head over there. And there is a high need for teachers in the UK. We are seen as really capable, whether we're working with our Canadian teachers, New Zealand, Aussie teachers. We're seen as hardworking. Our curriculum is more similar than different, and we slot in well. And when we're mentored and supported, we do really well in British schools. So don't be afraid that it might not feel like a good fit, or you might not be suitable. You would certainly do well in a British school. And the curriculum, like I said, is quite similar, but let me walk you through it. Preschool or early years, 0 to 3, you're looking at an early childhood setting. It's usually a nursery that's attached to an infant school or a primary school. You could work in an early childhood setting. We certainly help those educators. In primary, there are called Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 opportunities and the foundation stage. So from ages of 3 to 8, it's foundation and Key Stage 1. And that's where you're working with young students in that foundation stage, especially it's really learning through play and exploratory learning. And then upper primary is what we call Key Stage 2. And that's your sort of years 3, 4, 5, and 6. So if you've got a preference, you can let us know. Some people are early childhood and primary qualified. Others only want to work in a particular year level. So again, that's about that conversation that we'll have where we work out what's going to be a good fit in terms of location, type of school, year level, and the experience that you've got so far. In a secondary environment, students start at about 11. They go into years 7 and 8, and that's Key Stage 3. And then they go up into that year 9 to 11, which is the GCSE, or the General Certificate of Secondary Education, is what they're leading towards in year 9 to 11. And then A-level or sixth form is where they're working towards their final senior high school exams. So that's what we would call year 12 and 13, where they specialise in a few subjects, and you would be really working at a high level with those students in that senior age group.
Amazing. Thank you, Kath. So teacher pay, what can you earn? Well, everything is regulated in the UK, just like here in Australia and New Zealand and Canada. There is a set salary that you can earn in the UK, and it's a main scale pay. And you will be paid according to your years of experience on the British pay scale, like any British trained teacher. And you can see the link in the presentation here for that pay scale. If you are working in London, in inner, outer, or fringe of London, there are extra compensations because living in London is more expensive. So you get a little bit of extra on top to compensate for the fact that those areas are more expensive. Your salary is also determined by your qualifications. Your full-time experience as a teacher is obviously a very important factor. The location, as I said, London, you'll get paid a bit more because it's more expensive to live in London, and allowances depending on whether you're taking on extra responsibilities, etc., other than just the standard mainstream teaching position. If you took on higher responsibilities, then there may be extra allowances in terms of pay. But you can have a look on the link to look at the main scale pay, but roughly as a beginning teacher on main scale 1, it starts at about 32,000 and goes up to M6, which is about 49,000. So the scale goes from M1 to M6, where M1 is your first 2 years of teaching and M6 is a very experienced teacher at the top of the pay scale.
And I guess it's really important to be aware that as a consultant, we would be advocating for you. We would be making sure that your qualifications are what's required, and that you are being paid properly. So that's our job. In terms of teaching in the UK, you can go over as a brand new teacher straight out of university. What we do need is a final academic transcript that says your degree has been conferred. But other than that, you don't need to have registered with your state or province in order to be able to teach over in England. What happens though is if you do work in your local country, and it is dependent on the province or the country how long you need to work, but if you move from being a provisional teacher to a proficient teacher, which usually takes a year or two, then you can apply for something that's called British Qualified Teacher Status. Like I said, it's not required, but it's something that you can get if you are a more experienced teacher. And it requires you to do an online application and to show that you have moved from provisional to proficient. And then it's a free application, but it takes about 6 months, and you will get a certificate and a teaching number that says you're exactly the same as a British trained teacher. If you go over as a new graduate, we will still advocate for you. We will let them know that you're an overseas trained teacher and you will not miss out on the vast majority of opportunities. But just to be aware, yeah, QTS is out there. It's something that some people get confused about, and we can certainly identify with you what pathway to take and whether you can apply and what that application looks like. I think it's one of the first things you want to do if you do decide, let's say, that you want to go in 12 to 18 months. If you are proficient, it would be great to get started on that application so you don't have to wait around for it to come back nearer to when you go.
Great. Okay, so eligibility. Everybody needs to have UK working rights to be able to work in the UK. And the most common route that our teachers generally are eligible for is the Youth Mobility Scheme visa. And that's a visa that's is awarded to people from Commonwealth countries, including Australia, Canada, and New Zealand, who meet the following requirements. They want to live and work in the United Kingdom for up to 2 years, with the option to extend for a third year. They need to be aged between the ages of 18 and apply before they turn 36. The visa cost is £298, and you pay that at the time of your online visa application. But you also must pay $1,552, which is the UK Immigration Health Surcharge. The Immigration Health Surcharge is effectively the British government asking you to pay for 2 years of healthcare up front before you get to the UK. So when you're there, if you need to go to the doctor or you needed an emergency ambulance, you are fully covered by the National Health Scheme, so you don't have to pay for those services as you've already paid as part of your visa, that immigration health surcharge to cover you for that. You also need to have as a requirement 2,530 in savings in your bank account on application when you attend your biometric appointment. So that's an in-person appointment. And that's called a proof of funds check. They're not going to take any money from you out of that money. They just want to know that you have enough money to support yourself when you first arrive in the UK. So that's a proof of funds check. You must not have any children living with you, and you must not be financially responsible for children. And you must not have already been in the UK under this scheme. You can only get it, it's a one-off visa. You can only get it once in your lifetime. And you obviously need to just check that you have all the documentation and the requirements in place before you apply for the visa, because if you get it wrong, it can be a long process to appeal, and there's rejections and costs and things. So we can provide support and guidance on what needs to be done and what steps need to be taken with the youth mobility visa. But the good news is, it's a visa that's readily available. You can apply anytime within 6 months of arrival in the UK. And you do have the option to extend for a third year about 2 months before your visa expires. The 2 years expires, you can apply for a third year in country, but you do have to pay another visa application fee and another 1 year of immigration health surcharge. But I guess you've got the option to do that. So that's a great benefit, that you can stay for longer if you want to. The other visa categories would be the ancestry visa. That's people that have a grandparent that was born in the UK, or you hold a British passport. If you hold a British passport or can get a British passport, we would absolutely encourage you to get that. That means you don't have to pay any visa fees, and you'll be covered automatically by the National Health Scheme in the UK. If you do have a grandparent that was born in the UK, then you would be entitled to an ancestry visa, and we can talk to you about the options that you have with the ancestry visa, but it is very costly. So if you qualify for the youth mobility visa and the ancestry visa, we would always direct you towards applying for the youth mobility scheme visa in the first instance, because it's cheaper as you get a youth discount. But we can discuss that if you do qualify for the ancestry visa. So that's visas.
It's important to know that when you're heading over to the UK, there is a lot of support along the way. So before you arrive, and as we mentioned before, that can be up to sort of 12 to 18 months before. And then once you arrive, you'll be, as Emma mentioned, assigned a UK consultant who'll be your go-to on the ground. And you'll have that person as well as a school mentor that's assigned to you. From this side of the world, lots of advice on getting your visa, as Emma mentioned before. There's some training that you do before you can be fully compliant to teach in the UK. So we will send you that training, and you'll get upskilled in areas like safeguarding bullying in schools, cybersecurity, the sorts of things that are, really important to know when you're going into a British school. We make sure that we offer advice and support in regards to where to live. That's probably the most stressful and most asked question outside of the teaching and getting the right job is, where am I going to live? And it's a different answer for everyone. It really depends on the location. It depends on what other teachers are arriving and whether you can flat together. It certainly will, we will extend the search to other teachers that are in country, and there are connections that way. Some people have family and friends, that they can stay with initially, but we can look at all those options with you. And we know it's important for social connections, so make sure that those are happening. As I mentioned before, mentoring in school, making sure that there's a go-to person that's aware that you are requiring that little bit of extra support along with your UK consultant. You'll need help with banking and how to get all that started. There's something called a national insurance number, which is like a Medicare number or a social security. So we'll talk to you about how to get that happening. There will be an induction day before you start your contract in the UK. So there'll be a day where you meet with the other teachers that are starting, and you'll learn all about what you need to know before you get into your classroom. And yeah, we do help couples, we help groups of friends. We understand that not everyone's going over by themselves. So if there's a situation where you want to be within a group, then we work in that regard as well. So yeah, we can help whatever your situation.
And we also want you to feel part of our teacher community. If you're traveling on your own, we don't want you to feel like you're lonely and don't have anyone to talk to. So we believe in creating a strong sense of community. We will connect you with everyone's permission prior to arrival if you're going to be working in the same school or same location as other overseas teachers, so you have the opportunity to meet and connect. Our induction day is an amazing event where we talk about sort of professional development, what to expect in a UK classroom. We do some things on adaptive teaching and behaviour management. We also have food and drinks and give you an opportunity to connect with like-minded colleagues. So our intention is to make you feel welcome and part of our community.
And it's amazing how many people end up traveling together and working together often, and lifetime friends, really, friendships through colleagues at school and through other people who are working through Teach In. I think everyone knows one of the major benefits of heading over to the UK to live and work is that you're at that side of the world, and the travel opportunities are vast. So you're heading over to Europe, there are cheap flights, there's opportunities for you to explore lots of other parts of the world that are hard to get to and expensive from where you are currently. So that's usually the motivation, but what you also get is career progression. You get the opportunity in British schools to take on a full-time contract, to be direct with the school, and to experience that career progression that you get quite quickly in a British school if you want it. So if you're doing well, you can look at additional responsibilities and fast track. So a lot of our teachers started off on a youth mobility scheme visa. Some are still here, some are principals and heads of departments, and moving on into maybe into an international placement. So that's another benefit of heading over to the UK and getting a couple of years experience with the British national curriculum, is that you can then have a pathway into international schools all over the world that really often use that British system and look favourably on people who've done the couple of years overseas in a British school. So that's an amazing opportunity. And as we mentioned before, it's that social network that you're building. You're meeting like-minded people, the kind of people that are go-getters, that want to get out there and see the world and push themselves and experience a different life. So building that network, developing professionally, there's lots of opportunities for training and moving forward. And what you will find is when you come home, your CV will stand out. You will look as someone who is, interested in education, that has a different understanding, has worked in a different system, and you're really employable back at home. So many benefits, and it's something that we often hear if we're calling a referee and they say, "Oh, I wish I'd done that. I always wanted to do that when I was young and I didn't get out there and do it." Or they say, "Oh my God, I went and I had the time of my life. It was the best couple of years as a young teacher." So lots of positives, and we'll look forward to working with you.
So just wanting to share our social media channels so that you can keep up to date with the latest information. From time to time, things change in the UK. So if you want to connect with us, there are our social media channels for connecting on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
And we also have a YouTube channel which has a lot of videos, a lot of teachers talking about their experience and what they're enjoying, what the challenges have been. So search up for Teach In on that as well.
Absolutely. And we'll have questions in a moment, but what I was going to say is Kath and I are here, as I said, to provide you with personalised service, map your journey out with you as a partnership. So if you want to have a one-to-one call, then you can book a call. We will send you the recording of the webinar, and within that email there will be a link to book a call in our diaries for a time that suits you if you'd like to have a one-to-one chat about your skills and experience and what you want your journey to look like. So we're more than happy to accommodate that whenever you're ready. And as Kath said, even if you're going in 18 months' time, it's great to get an idea of employability and all the information up front so that you're best prepared and know what's coming, and can also save some funds for that. So let's now move on to questions. If anyone's got any questions, we do have a Q&A section, so feel free to type your questions in and we can answer any questions you might have now.
And while you're doing that, over the period of working with you towards heading over to the UK, there are 3 stages of compliance that we collect from you. The first stage is those sorts of documents that are required to present you to schools. Then we go into things like ID and qualification and the training that I talked about before. And then in those final few months, we will send you in the right direction to get the correct police check, a UK 1/4 DBS, and an Australian or a Canadian or a New Zealand one that's appropriate for teaching overseas. So all of that is part of the process as well. There's no stupid question. You might want to book a call because you have one question or you just want to clarify something. I didn't mention in the QTS slide earlier that there is an opportunity for you to gain qualified teacher status whilst you're in the UK. So if you went over on a youth mobility scheme visa, after 2 years, if you were staying on for that 3rd year and you'd been teaching the whole time, you would be eligible for a 12-week assessment only route to gain that qualified teacher status. So just so you know.
So Sabrina has asked us, is this opportunity for teachers who have already completed their bachelor's, master's in teaching? Yes, it is. If you wanted to go halfway through your master's of teaching, then you could work as a support staff, so a teacher aide. We wouldn't really recommend that to use your visa on, because you don't get paid as much as a teacher and it can be quite tough to live and work on a TA salary, and you've obviously got the visa that will start, and you've only got 2 years. So we would say if you can wait and complete your degree, then you're going to make the most of your youth mobility and your earning capacity, and you'll be able to afford to live and work and travel. So we wouldn't really advocate going as a teacher aide midway through your degree. We would recommend going just as soon as you finish. And you don't have to have completed your graduation ceremony, as long as you have your final transcript that says your award has been awarded or conferred, then we can find you a job. And we will find you a job prior to that even happening, as long as we get that piece of paper in the end.
Yeah. And as I think we mentioned earlier, but the good times to head over if you want a full-time contract are for obviously the start of the British school year. So it would probably be sort of by the middle of the year, vacancies and opportunities start to happen, and you'll secure a position for the beginning of September. And then the other times are the beginning of the term in January, or even going for after Easter, sort of middle of April until July. So they're 3 good times to head over for a direct placement or a long-term contract with a school.
Just looking at the questions, Ellen is typing something at the moment, so I'll wait for her question to come through. Is there any kind of registration we have to do, like we have for NESA teacher number we have to get? No, there is no formal registration process you need to go through with, any sort of British education system. But obviously, Catherine did mention British qualified teacher status. If you are an experienced teacher and you have full professional registration in your state or province, then we would encourage you to apply for British qualified teacher status. That recognises you as a British trained teacher. And if you're staying long term, then you are eligible for promotion positions, etc., if you have QTS. But it's not essential. You can work in the UK for 4 years without British qualified teacher status. So the answer, Ellen, is no, you don't need to have any registration. We do ask you to fill out a registration form, and we gather compliance documents, as Catherine mentioned, and we pass those on to the school to make sure you're compliant before you work in a UK school. But you don't need any formal registration process. Any other questions anyone has?
How employable would I be with 5 to 6 months of CRT experience? That's great. I mean, if you've come out of university and you've been working for 6 months in a range of schools and getting experience with, all aspects of being a teacher, that's great. It means that you're in a position that when you're interviewing for a role, you can talk about your experience, you can talk about your placements. Like I mentioned earlier, and Emma did, you'll get mentorship within the school. So yeah, it's a great time to head over, and you're in your first year out from uni.
Any further questions? Doesn't look like we've got any more questions at this point in time. So we will say thank you very much, everyone, for attending this evening. We really appreciate your time. Please reach out and book a call if you'd like to chat further about your particular journey and how it's going to happen and the timing, etc. We can help you with all of that and guide you through. We will aim to send out a copy of this webinar over the next few days with the link to book a call if you'd prefer that. If you want just to sit on the information for the moment, that's fine too. But we would encourage you to engage with us at least 6 months prior to your intended arrival date in the UK. And feel free to share our webinar with any friends or colleagues that might be interested as well, that you can get on board to have a little sort of teaching team to go to the UK with. So thank you very much for your time this evening, and we'll look forward to engaging with all of you very soon.
Bye.
Bye.